Once we started implementing the ads in July and August, I think right off of the bat, it probably went up 50% at least, and it's just been steadily growing ever since then.
It's really nice to know that we can rely on something like ads when we now have a whole structure built out for us that will always work.
How confident are you guys? You think you guys could double your business next year?
I think we could do it. I think we definitely have the tools.
Hey, Jessica and Jake, appreciate you guys hopping on. You guys have had an amazing growth story, so really wanted to chat with you guys about kind of your guys' journey and MetaAds at scale. But before we get started, if you guys can talk about what your brand is, what you guys sell.
We're the co-founders of Fountainhead Hair. We kind of started the brand to provide non-toxic and natural hair products while also making them really effective, because a lot of the natural products on the market aren't effective. So that's kind of what we were going for. Yeah, we started the brand in 2023 in our little guest bedroom in our apartment. We started selling little hair oils, and then now we've expanded to shampoo and conditioner, and we've moved into a warehouse. We're just doing it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of your guys' products as well. As actually the only stuff I use, so I can attest how great they are. But really would love to hear kind of about like before joining MetaAds at scale, where were you guys at with ads? I think you guys had kind of worked with someone on ads before, but really like to hear kind of like what was the state of the union before joining MetaAds at scale?
Well, we started in July 2023. We didn't bother running any ads. Everything was organic up until January. And then we signed with somebody that kind of was more so the first person to hit us up. We had no idea where to start with anything like that. So we were kind of just taking somebody's word for it. It didn't go completely great. We kind of fell off of the ads in general. And so that progressed up until the summertime, where we signed with you, I think early July. So I think like right off of the bat, it shifted everything in that we now had this avenue that instead of just putting it in somebody else's hands, you were teaching us how to do it, which allows us the creative freedom to do as we please. So I think that was a big difference between who we were working for or with beforehand. And then once we joined with you, and it was more of a training rather than a let you do everything sort of agency path. And I think that was much more ideal in terms of like allowing us to be involved, which kind of changes the whole dynamic of it. So between where we started in June, once we started implementing the ads in July and August, I think right off of the bat, it probably went up 50% at least. And it's just been steadily growing ever since then.
Definitely. Well, love to hear that. You guys saw that huge difference working with myself in the MetaAds at scale. And that's the goal of the program, really, is to empower brands to be able to run their ads themselves and really, like you said, harness your own creativity and not kind of feel like you can't do everything you want because you have to rely on somebody else, right? And so what would you guys say? I know you guys had a pretty massive November, but if you guys can describe kind of where your revenue maybe was at, before joining until like what happened last month. I know there's a pretty big jump. I think it might have been your guys' best month ever, but would love to kind of hear from you guys kind of where revenue was at before joining and then kind of like how much it's grown since joining.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we joined, it was the first week of July. I think we had just ended June. No sales, no massive spikes. It was kind of just a steady month at like 30K, somewhere right around there. And then we had a big viral post in February that we grossed, I think it was somewhere right under 100. And so going from that 30K in June up until with November, having Black Friday and having the ads going and all of these things that we were doing, I think you just looked at it, not me, but what did we end November at? Like 140?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, between June and then November with everything that the ads were doing and just Black Friday and everything else, I guess that's 4X and then some. So, I mean, that's 4 or 5 months, and it's a giant difference.
How confident does that make you feel now that you have the ads going that you guys will, continue to grow?
I think much more confident. It's really nice to know that we can rely on something like ads when we now have a whole structure built out for us that will always work. And we found ads that work and just copy that works. And it's something that we can be consistent with while we're trying to like scale other avenues at the same time, like fixing our emails and organic posts and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'd say it's great to have that to rely on while we're trying to do so many other things at once. We really have dialed it in. We've like nailed it, and I think it's a great structure going forward.
What would you guys say is your favorite part about MetaAds at scale and about working with myself?
I think like with how we were operating before joining, it was very reliant on basically just Twitter. It was just posts. It was like that viral post we had in February. It was a constant state of hoping that something like that would happen again, rather than having like genuine control over it, like try to recreate that. But there's nothing like organic traffic. So I guess the difference now, and the best part about this whole program, in my opinion, is that if you constantly have this thing in the background where it's almost like a fire that can always be kindled, that if you want to throw money and effort and creative juices towards this singular thing, it can immediately result in an uptick in sales. And it's something that as the founders or whoever's running the business, you just constantly have this thing that you can throw money and then, everything else at, and then it will almost automatically reap you rewards. So I think that that's probably the biggest factor. Like before we joined, we didn't understand the gravity of what MetaAds can provide a business. So now that we do, it's like we will forever have this thing that we can kind of lean on if you need it, or even if you don't need it, that you can use as a vehicle to bring sales in.
Yeah, definitely. I would say once you kind of crack MetaAds, it's almost like a money printer, right? You put $1 in, you get $3-4 back, right? And so
right, it really does feel like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really glad you guys are seeing that. And again, that's what this program is for, is just help you guys create that machine that you guys can rely on. And so you can, once you get it going, you can focus on other parts of the business, right? Focus on creating product, right? And so on that note, I mean, what would you guys say was the time commitment? Do you think it took a ton of time for you guys?
In my opinion, it really didn't take much time from me at all. It was a little intimidating in the beginning when I just came in knowing nothing. But as we moved through the program, I realized that I really didn't have to devote that much time to it. It wasn't super draining, and I could continue doing all of my other business tasks. It was just a few hours a week, making creative, seeing if it worked, discussing with you in Slack. And it was good for founders who have so many other things that we need to be doing. It didn't take as much time for me as I thought.
Yeah, that's where I think it's a big intimidation factor. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to spend like all this time, but really that's my job, is to make it as simplified as possible. Hey, just these are the campaigns we're gonna run. You guys can make the creative, and that's kind of all you really need to do. So glad you guys saw that. It didn't take so much time. So now I guess casting into the future, 2025 is right around the corner. Like, where do you guys see, Fountainhead, in the next 6 to 12 months, now that you guys have ads, running consistently?
Well, a lot of it depends, because we do make our own products. We can't just get a shipment of them. We get all of the materials, and then we have to ourselves, it's the two of us that make every single thing. So a lot of it depends on that, but I think that's a much better spot to be in than having a surplus of inventory and you can't figure out how to sell it. It'll depend on how we can manage, just like whether we outsource things or whatever, but just how we can deal with this volume. That's been the difficulty so far, because we have had this thing that we can always use to bring these sales in. Feels like we can sell out anytime we want, which is a good problem to have, but a lot of that depends on just our own ability to keep up. But that's a much more preferable spot to be in. But I think that over the next, 2025, we just plan to, use the ads and our own ability to create new things and our current products to completely transform everything. From like 2023 until now, it's been a million times different, and we can only assume that it's just going to become increasingly exponential. So that's what we're trying to plan for. It's a little overwhelming, but it's exciting.
How confident are you guys? Do you think you guys could double your business next year?
I think we could do it. I think we definitely have the tools. I think we underestimate a lot of the different avenues, but what we saw with Black Friday is when you put all of them together and they all work, you can have a massive month. And I think that's something we were missing in the beginning before we joined the program. And now we have email, we have SMS, we have MetaAds, we have posting, all of these avenues that we were kind of just chipping at individually. now we've kind of learned how to put them all together, and we saw what it could do in November for us when we had our craziest month. And I think we're just going to try and continue with that and be consistent about it. And I think we could definitely double what we've done this November.
I think that's another aspect of it that I probably should have mentioned earlier, is that like beforehand we were using Shopify's like innate email system, just the most primitive thing as humanly possible. But just being able, like, we're brand new to this, we've never done anything like this before. When it comes to even Klaviyo and all of these other tools that like we see tweets about or whatever, but had kind of just ignored, actually having some sort of direction and people that we can talk to, whether it's you or just the other people in the Slack channel that you can refer to and just ask simple questions that by themselves would take quite a while to figure out. But because you can directly speak to somebody that has done it before or has some sort of experience, it has completely streamlined the learning of all of that sort of stuff. So now that we can set up email, or I mean, we have it set up and that we can do it in this way that is much more professional and is the standard way to do these things that we just had no idea about. And that by itself, ads even aside, has been a giant game changer for us, just in terms of how new we are to this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably another one of the cool parts about the program is, yes, it is a MetaAds specific program. However, we help you with your email, SMS, website, and really just help you get everything up to speed. Not to mention the community now. There's like 60 plus brands in there. Everyone's helping each other. Again, I don't see all your guys' DMs, but I'm hoping you guys all help each other out in the DMs. Last question. If someone was on the fence about joining MetaAds at scale, what would you guys both tell them?
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. I think we were a little nervous when we jumped into, but it's only been positive. And I think that, within like our first month or two of working with you, we completely paid for the entry. And I think that as long as, someone's kind of like in our boat, they have a brand that they want to scale and they see doing big things in the future, I think it's a no-brainer.
If you don't already have something like that, if you can't just create a viral post every week, which most people cannot, then always having something that you can lean back on if you need it. And it's just a fire that can always be kindled. It never goes out, that you can fan the flames anytime you need it. And it almost is guaranteed to reap some sort of reward. And I think that if somebody had been able to articulate that to us from the very beginning, we would have been much less hesitant to join, and we weren't hardly even hesitant to begin with. So I think it is a no-brainer.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys sharing all that. Again, the goal of this program is to help as many brands as possible achieve their dreams, and MetaAds can really just change the game. High hopes for your brand. I think it's going to be massive in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. It'll be one of the household names. So really excited for your guys' growth and your guys' future, and appreciate you guys taking the time to hop on. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys. And yeah, thanks so much for doing this interview. Really helps me out and also is going to help other people out too, which is really the main goal of the program. Thank you guys so much. And you guys have an amazing weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You too.
All right, see you guys.